Hey guys, this is Veloc1raptor. You're listening to BooshFighter. Well, yes, thank you guys very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about myself, Street Fighter, or whatever we're going to talk about.
We are going to talk about Star Wars. That's it. I don't know. I don't know what they told you.
I got stuff to talk about with that too. So
Oh.
You know, I still haven't seen it, but like I got told the whole plot last night, like so I know everything that happens now.
That's whack. You don't want to see it like that. That's whack, dude.
Yeah. But I guess Abe, all you.
All right. So the question we normally start with is always the same one, but we must ask it again, just like the Star Wars movie. Actually, it's kind of same movie again, right? But what is your origin? Not in only fighting games, but like in just video gaming in general. Like, how did you come to this world that we all know and love?
Right. When I was probably 4 or 5, I went to my next door neighbor's house, and he out of nowhere had a Super Nintendo, and he was playing the original Mortal Kombat. And for whatever reason, I like lost my mind over this thing. Like, it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Even specifically fighting games, although I would go on to play plenty of other games, especially up before like 2009, 2010. But I just remember being introduced to a Super Nintendo, and after that, it was game over. That was my hobby. Like video games were my thing. And then so I went through different phases playing things like FPSs and some RTSs. I did some Counter-Strike and some StarCraft.
Brood War, baby.
Yes, Brood War, yes. And I had dial-up internet at the time, so it didn't go over well at first. But that was right about the time everyone... Yeah, that was right about the time everybody...
Situation.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people went through that kind of a thing. And then when you got Comcast, oh my gosh, you get to rejoin like the real world again, and that was a cool time. But I did play Street Fighter 2 back in the day, but this was on Super Nintendo on a Super Nintendo pad, and I remember specifically thinking I was such a badass because I would pick Chun-Li and do jumping light kick in, jump backwards, jumping light kick, jump backwards, and just repeat that, and it would beat the computer. So I thought it was hot shit, But I've come to find out that that's not necessarily the best strategy anymore. The tech has evolved past that. But that was kind of my story. Yeah, some people still do that, though. You see it every once in a while. But, so, yeah, just my childhood was filled with video games as, like, my hobby and my passion and such. And then 2010 rolled around, and I was with my good friend Driftwood. We were, we weren't in the video game scene really at all. But he was like, hey, there's a new Street Fighter game. Let's go to GameStop and get it. And like virtually everyone else in America, they go, oh, yeah, I totally played Street Fighter when I was a kid. So we went and we grabbed vanilla Street Fighter 4. And we started playing just Ryu and Ken. I picked Ken and he picked Ryu with Xbox controllers. And we were, I'm sure, the scrubbiest of the scrubs. But for whatever reason, we stuck with it, just playing against each other because that's really all we had. And found out that there was like a local scene. I actually went to a Guitar Hero tournament. I played a lot of Guitar Hero in high school, and
nice.
I went to our local arcade kind of shop place where they were having a tournament, and I played in that, and they told me about how the real game is Street Fighter around these parts, and so we came back and played some Street Fighter with the people that were there, and now we're very good friends with most everyone that we met like in that time, and that's kind of the Arizona Street Fighter scene now is much of those people that have stuck with it. And and since then, I've kind of reduced my gameplay to mostly just fighting games, and even beyond that, mostly just Street Fighter, as I've, kind of turned my attention to just specifically that for tournaments, because we're now playing in the competitive realm and such. You don't have as much time. I actually did get the new Guitar Hero, so I am still playing other things, but yeah, most of my time goes to writing about, reading about, and playing Street Fighter.
Would you, would you still say that you're Arizona-based or not?
Well, okay, so here's my story with that. Grew up in Arizona, started Street Fighter in Arizona, but then when I graduated college, I had a degree in, and still have it, a degree in media for film and things like that. So I headed out California way to pursue some kind of a job in entertainment, whether that be acting or writing or whatever. And at the same time, obviously Wednesday Night Fights was out there, and I was so much more excited about getting to go and play at Super Arcade and such. Instead of like going out there for getting like a job and all that kind of stuff. But so I was doing some stuff in LA, but also attending Wednesday Night Fights every week and trying to go to any casuals and stuff. Would go to Online Tony's house for his little casuals he would have on Mondays and things like that, and really became immersed in the community. And so playing there, I got to get on stream a couple times, and I lucked out that I play a character that nobody else really played. So I didn't have to be too awesome with him. I just had to do decent with him, and everyone's like, "Oh man, he's really good." And I've kind of just rode that wave for quite some time. But I lived out in LA for, I want to say, around 3 years, and then just moved back to Arizona in August because I got this job with Eventhubs where I just write straight from my computer. So I was out in LA primarily to find a job, which I did, and it's super cheap to live in Arizona as compared to LA, which and my friends and family are out here. So I came back here, and now I'm able to save up money and such, and therefore attend more tournaments and things like that. So I think it was a win-win. Although I definitely miss the LA scene, and now that Wednesday Night Fights is up again, I feel like I certainly am missing out getting to play with the caliber of players that are out there, because I'm kind of amongst the stronger guys here in Arizona, so it's hard for me to sharpen skills, because I don't have that hierarchy above me to such a degree out here. But yeah, so now I'm still living back here in Arizona, but the idea is I'll be able to travel more, so hopefully I'll be able to level up through my travels and my experiences playing people from around the country.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a thing with basically anyone who doesn't live, either in West Coast or East Coast. I'd say here in Texas, where we're all based, we have pretty good compared to, a lot of other places in the country. We have, good arcades here, a lot of strong players, but even then it's, we still don't have like the top, very top level of caliber here. So it's kind of hard to progress when, you're teaching others and you're not necessarily being taught about things in the game yourself.
No, but you guys, when you go, yes, obviously the coasts are kind of the extreme for the American scene. But the next place my mind goes is definitely the Midwest there. And specifically, I would say, I guess, Texas, because I don't think anybody else around there has a super notable scene that everyone hears about and has as many regular events and such. And you guys have players like Brawley and Hamad and the guys that came out recently to Arizona for Rewired, like that bastard, what's his name? Tommy. Tommy Guns.
Tommy Guns.
Yeah.
I think that's the second time he's been called a bastard on the show.
Hey,
on the show.
Me, all right?
Yeah, just on the show.
I say that with a smile on my face. It's all good between Tommy Guns and I. But yeah, like Chaotix, and I'm sure I'm missing just a whole bunch. But you guys definitely have. Yeah, for sure.
We tried to bait Crackfiend into saying it, but he was too nice.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, I would say it's kind of like the coasts, and then Texas, and then everybody else. And I would say Arizona, maybe a close one after Texas, because I don't know a whole lot of specific communities outside of that. So I'm happy with where we're at, but we're always trying to level up.
I feel like I need to talk to you like off the air, because I feel like I'm debating on with myself to move to LA for potential entertainment, anything, like.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you mean not Street Fighter related, but like just in general?
Oh, there's no hope for me. If you ever saw me play Street Fighter, there's no hope. He's
not lying.
Well, it reigns true for video games as well as it does for almost anything else. But I can tie it in because it reigns true for video games and into this show. I will just say that LA is a place where everything that you're used to or that there's like a bigger version there. So when you're talking about the fighting game community, it's like you kind of know what the fighting game community is like where you're at, what it's kind of like, and you got like 10, 15, maybe if you're lucky, 30 people that come around on the regular. But then if you go to LA, you've got 100 people coming out for the tournaments and stuff, and things like that. It's just a bigger version, and so of course there's going to be more people to pick from, and when there's more people, there's inevitably going to be those diamonds that come through that are like the best. But and that rings true though for anything that you're talking about. The coast, I would imagine the East Coast is very similar. But if you've got a thing that you like, LA or I'm assuming like New York and such, there's going to be a bigger version of it there. And that's saying something considering you guys are Texas know about big stuff, right?
Yeah.
That joke that you guys are definitely not tired of hearing.
Yeah, we like it big, man. We like it big.
Oh, well, I guess one thing that's kind of a point of contention that it gets brought up almost on a bi-weekly basis here, about basically cultivating the scene, like you said, finding ways for everyone to improve and whatnot. And, there's a lot of people who say, players don't help each other with tech or whatever, or, people don't support by showing up or don't practice enough, or, the players aren't good enough for me to get better. And really, I mean, even with the East and West Coast, despite the fact that there's, they had arcades and a larger player base, but still people found ways to bring themselves up from that point where there was, everyone started at zero. I guess where I'm coming at is if you have any sort of like ideas or thoughts on basically how to, grow scenes like that for people who don't already have pre-established figures.
Well, from my own experience, when I first jumped into the Arizona scene, one, I played on pad. Two, I played a character that was regarded as pretty bad, not very tournament viable, which he wasn't and isn't really, if we're talking tiers and such, but that's a whole other can of worms. But I came into this scene, and as close as I am with the Arizona guys, there was some tough love going on when I first came in, and that pretty much goes to anyone that's first coming in. Not every scene is like this, but if the Arizona scene is at all indicative of the FGC as a whole, it's not easy getting in. A lot of the people that play video games, like not all of them, but a lot of them don't have the most socially graceful attitudes and personalities. So you don't always get welcomed in with an open arm, and someone doesn't kind of like throw their arm around your shoulder and bring you in and sit you down and play and teach you or whatever. My personal drive came from my competitive nature. I felt like, hey, this is a game that I have fun playing, and I feel like I can win. I'm not the best, and even in this small scene, because my entire scope of the FGC was just the Arizona scene. But I felt like I could do well and I could grow, and I was completely self-motivated. And I would go as far to say that they basically didn't even want me there because I had a really poor relationship with like the leader of our community because he just hated the way I played the game. And so it was even down to it's kind of an extreme example. He would like not play with me specifically. He would kind of like the group would go out to like Denny's or something after we played at like midnight or whatever when the shop closed. I would be specifically not invited. So like the odds were stacked against me for staying in the scene. But for me, it was my competitive drive that kept me as a part of it, right? Not all scenes are like that. Hopefully most are not like that. But to people that are trying to get in, if you don't have that competitive drive, I don't know how far you're going to really go. So having said that, though, with Street Fighter V coming out and with the way Capcom has done the Pro Tour and things have really taken off in the community, it seems like there's more of a reason to care about it. It's not just some side thing as much as it was, 2 or 3 years ago or even 1 year ago. Like more and more people are going to know what Street Fighter is. They're going to know what fighting games are. And with the way things like Twitch have blown up and how competitive video games and more specifically competitive fighting games have become more mainstream and are continuing to grow in that direction, it's going to be more relevant to our culture in general. So people are going to be more motivated to stick around with it from that just alone. So I'm excited. I think that the scenes are going to grow because the genre in general is growing.
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of times when that argument comes down, it ultimately, in my opinion, boils down to people who have the natural like competitive drive or work ethic are going to put in the work no matter what, if people are helping them or not. I mean, I guess when I started, I pretty much just learned from like going to the Shoryuken forums and just playing like one friend of mine, and you know a lot of people I know who just might not even come out or something, but they put in a lot of time and practice, whatever like that, and nobody really showed them anything. They just kind of took the initiative to teach themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I just like kind of all that story have a lot of negativity with it. It's like, this is how it's going to be hard for you. In the scene here now, it's two of the the main organizers, or not organizers, but just kind of like I would say leaders. And there are more than just us, but Driftwood, who I talked about, and myself, like we kind of drive things a little bit, and I definitely have to say there are other people that do this too, up north and here in Tucson where I'm at. But we try to make or facilitate a nice atmosphere for those that aren't as good, because you come in, you get your ass kicked, and no one says anything. 9 out of 10 people in that scenario are like, well, why would I do this when I can go do something else? It's going to be a lot more fun. But so as kind of now the leaders of our community, we've both taken it upon ourselves to try to be extra kind, to actually do what I was talking about earlier, throw a metaphorical arm around, the newcomers and say, hey, I would like to help teach you. And we're talking about doing things like, especially when 5 drops, to all the new people that come in, maybe forming a couple of teams where we got like 5 newcomers on my team and 5 newcomers on Driftwood's team, and then it's our job to kind of train them over like a couple of weeks time, and then they go at it and they get to see their progress and things like that, making it fun for the new guys, and making sure that there are enough people that will play on their skill level around them to keep things interesting for them. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really interesting idea, and I think that one of the things that like our scene specifically suffers from, I don't know if this is the same across the board, but it seems like there's like a group of guys that are kind of at the top that are stronger at, like, say, Street Fighter 4, and they're almost content with kind of being those guys, to the point where they don't exactly coach the new guys up to get them to that level. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I think ultimately you want everyone to be strong so you can kind of level each other up. But, yeah, I think that's an interesting approach to level up the new guys and get them interested, because, in a way, those are kind of the most important guys, because that's how your scene's going to grow, not by keeping the same 2 or 3 players at the top for years and years. You know what I mean?
Well, David, if you remember, actually, like, I do really like that idea. We had almost, like, an identical one. Don't you remember, David? We had
Rudy, I remember. It was a disaster. I remember.
Maury, for listening, you're a scrub. You shouldn't have been a coach. It felt both ways. That the basic idea was we're going to have a team of newer players on each one, and we'll select matches based on, we think these people are kind of the same level, and then coach them in the matchups or something. I mean, it kind of fell down to people, like, poor organization on all our parts, and people just didn't show up, so we stopped doing it. But ideally, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's really easy. Well, when you are one of the better players, at least within your community, it's easy to say, hey, we have like a weekly or whatever it is your regular routine is. I can go to this weekly and I can just clean up. I can, make $80 or $100 every week or whatever it is by just winning. And while, I mean, that's great and everything, you kind of play that Hollywood, like, I'm only going to play people if they money match me, and I want to keep my top position. It's very difficult to say, hey, this is how you beat what I'm doing. This is how you overcome the obstacle you're at, because that creates new competition for you as the head guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that mentality is really, really, really important to have if we want to keep the newbies in. And again, it comes back to this, like, not everybody in the gaming community is socially graceful. They're not thinking about these things. They're not actively thinking, like, how am I going to make my scene more inviting to other people? They don't even care about that stuff off the top of their head. But as we grow, as there are more people, I would greatly encourage anyone that's in any kind of leadership position, whether it's you're the best at your game or you are the the one who opens your house or your establishment to other players. Make sure that you go out of your way to play on the feelings of the people that you're bringing in. Make them feel welcome, make them feel happy. No, not everyone's going to be as good as the top players. Some people are going to be in the community forever, and they're never going to level up. And we have players like that here in Arizona, but they come out to everything. And it's not fair to say they're never going to level up. They're just never going to be the best while the game is alive. There's not enough time for these video games before the next one comes out, and this one kind of like it. Yeah, if you're a leading figure, it's your responsibility to your scene to make sure that people are feeling welcomed and happy. And they might not be winning because some people just are not as good. They're not as quick to learn for whatever reason. Fighting games are not their natural strength. But those people, they're not just necessarily going to leave if they're feeling like they're having fun in one capacity or another. Because it's more than just the game playing, it's also the community. So, invite them out to Denny's or IHOP or the burger joint that you go to after playing. And because for some people, the FGC is the only like family setting they have, and it's an incredibly important thing. The community is much more than just the games that we play, and it's easy to kind of lose sight of that sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we are actually really lucky here in the fact that I think both the other guys can vouch for that almost any, like, the top-level players in our local scene or something are, extremely, helpful and welcoming to newer players who want to, like, if you sit down with Rudy or Vince or, just some other guys in our scene or something, almost anyone, like, if you just started yesterday, will show you some stuff, I will say most people won't actively seek out new players. Like, if someone's sitting there and won't sit down just because there is, I guess, the frustration factor of a lot of times, like, people just show, like, a, casual 5-minute interest in playing the game. It's like, all right, I spent 2 hours, teaching you this Gen stuff, and then, they never show up again. So it can be kind of frustrating in that sense.
Absolutely. It's kind of there's another side to that coin, so you're totally right.
The one thing I wanted to ask you, you brought it up a couple times, talking about other topics, but was the character that you play. I guess in your backstory, I was kind of thinking maybe you were going to say that you played another game competitively, but it seems like Street Fighter 4 was kind of the first one you took seriously. Am I right?
For the most part, yeah. Like, I've always been a video game player, but I think Street Fighter 4 is the first time. I mean, outside of Guitar Hero, I went to, like, local tournaments and things like that. But yeah, Street Fighter was, for all intents and purposes, the first.
So how did you settle on Gouken? I mean, was there another main first? Did it take you a while to get to him, or?
Well, okay, so like I said, we started out playing Ryu and Ken, and I was Ken, and I was fine with that. Yeah. But I never went to any tournaments with him. If you remember in Vanilla, you had to unlock like half of the cast, and Gouken was the final one that you would unlock because in order to get him, you had to get everyone else.
I remember we had to do like 5 first hits, like 5 perfects or ultra finishes or something.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of little hoops you had to jump through. So I didn't even know the character was in the game until, I don't know, a month or two after we got it. Right. And I was content with Ken. I usually settle into one thing that I start feeling and then just go with that. And I probably miss a lot of opportunities and a lot of different potential paths, but that's just my personality. So Gouken gets unlocked, and still then I'm not playing him. I'm still just dicking around with Ken. And I think it's kind of hazy, but I was thinking about it. Nick or Driftwood, he would say every day that he's going to pick up a different character, a new character. And I go, yeah, just like the last 600 that you picked up, but you still just play Ryu, Yeah. But he was always, that was his personality. He was always like, I'm going to explore this new ground. I'm going to explore this new ground and stuff. And for whatever reason, he said that about Gouken one day, and he made him sound really cool for some reason. Like, oh, he's the master, and he's this buff old dude, and he's supposed to have been dead. And I don't remember what the specific thing was about it, but I was like, I'm going to pick that character, and I'm going to actually beat you with him. And I'm not going to let you know that I'm playing him. I'm just going to pull him out one day, and you're like, what? And I'm actually going to have a better Gouken than you, because he was talking up like, I'm going to make him so good, and I'm going to beat the crap out of you with him. And so, I mean, that was essentially it. I thought that, and then I started playing with him, and I think it was how hard he hit that was attractive to me, and I just stuck with him, had fun playing him, And then even though we later started competing and finding out the hard way that he's not that great of a character, I still did well with him, especially things like back throw into Ultra 1 for like 1 billion damage, things like that. That was really satisfying, and it was fun because there was a delayed timing on the back throw, so it would hit everybody all the time, and it'd get frustrated, and I guess I had some sick satisfaction out of that. But it just, I guess I just clicked with the character, and then the rest was history. And then it became like a thing, like I was the only one that played him. So there were certainly times where I was like, I need to get someone else under my belt, I need to play somebody else, but that thought never came to any kind of fruition. So here we are, 2016, and I'm still a Gouken player.
Wow.
That's funny. I had like the exact same situation picking up guy. I think I was playing Gen at that point or something, and like Vince started playing guy. Like, I'm gonna learn guy, and I was like, no, I'm gonna learn this character better than you. That was basically the whole basis of that.
Yeah, I think it's cool when people use unique characters like like Gen or Gouken. I think there's a certain amount of pride there in being the only guy that like masters that character. And I remember just seeing videos of you playing and stuff. And I think for about 5 seconds I told myself I was going to try to learn Gouken. And the two things I saw was I want to say his name was Blacktooth, had a guide.
Yep, King Blacktooth. That's the guide that I tell
Blacktooth.
people to go to.
Yeah. And I saw
you,
and I saw some stuff that you had released. You were the two guys I saw that really had content out on how to play the character. And yeah, so I always thought he was cool. I never clicked with him necessarily, but I've always kind of been the same of like wanting to be the the guy who uses the different character that no one else really has. So I think that's really cool.
Do you ever, I guess, does that matter to you at all when you pick a character? Because to me, like, I kind of like or prefer to play characters that not everyone else plays. I don't know. It's just satisfying in some way to me.
There's definitely a novelty to it, and I would be lying if I didn't say that at least part of me stuck with Gouken because of that. But when in my initial character process or choosing process, no, I don't think specifically looking to be the odd man out or anything like that. It just happened to play out that way this time around. I've promised myself that I'm just going to pick top tier and not deal with this crap when Street Fighter 5 comes out. But I'm actually looking at Fang right now. Fang, yeah, and he's probably not going to be the best. I don't know, but he'll definitely be annoying. So if I'm kind of looking at myself, maybe I just like to play characters that can annoy people.
Right.
But yeah, like there's also a big part of me that I recently started playing Evil Ryu like a couple months back. Not very amazingly, but just because I was like, I'm tired of playing like a character that has such bad matchups or has such a hard time so often. So no, not necessarily. I hope that I don't do that to myself again.
I think I saw a video of you using him against Filipino Man at Evo.
Yeah. I actually did decently against Filipino Man the first couple times that I used Evil Ryu, but that Rose matchup was so hard for Gouken, and I guess I didn't have the patience. And Anton knows me so well. Yeah, like it takes all of me to be able to beat Anton, and it's very rare that I'm able to muster it because he's a great player. We all give him a hard time for having a really he doesn't learn any lessons ever, but he somehow he's the one even in SoCal right now, say for Snake Eyes, it's always like right up there in top 8, beating all the really strong players, so you can't argue with his results,
Yeah, I saw the video of you guys playing, and I guess it didn't occur to me that you guys have probably played a bunch before that.
All the time.
But that makes a lot of sense. And watching footage of you online, I thought it was, or on YouTube today, I thought it was really cool that you've had the opportunity to play against a lot of top players. Like I saw you play Kazunoko, you've played Bonchan, and I think so. You played Bonchan at NCR.
Yeah, Bonchan and Gamerby at NCR. That went well.
That's right. Yeah, I was watching those matches earlier today, and I guess the only thing I wanted to ask, I'm sure Marcus has something prepared, but I was just curious watching you play all these guys. It's like you got a ton of videos online, and you play in top competition. Because you're one of those guys that it seems like you're always there, but and I was asking the guys like how's he done at majors and how's he placed. It seems like you've I think you were just outside the top 32 at NCR. Is that right?
Yeah. I think I got Maybe I didn't. I don't know. I'm not sure. At NCR, I might have already made it, or maybe it was top 64, and I got like 33rd, something like that. Yeah.
Do you?
Didn't you make it? You got 17th at Evo or something, right?
I think 25th a couple of years in a row.
Something like that. I remember it was the one where you beat Infiltration. I was definitely super happy about that.
Yeah.
Or just, I guess, is like, Gouken's, I guess, my primary secondary, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I play Guy, but if someone's picking like T-Hawk or Geef or something, I go right to Gouken.
For sure.
And, I also pick Gouken if it's Akuma, and it seems like every Akuma thinks that's a horrible matchup for Gouken. I actually think it's like 5-5, and just to see like an actual good Gouken player play, easily one of the best Akumas in the world and win, kind of, show that there was hope in that,
Are you talking about Infiltration?
Yeah.
Well, when we played at Evo, he actually used Chun-Li. But
nice.
I think, when Ultra dropped, because Akuma lost a lot of his Vortex ability, that was what gave him such an edge against Gouken. And I would agree that it's at least close to 5-5 now, just because even though Akuma still has an edge, I feel, if Gouken catches him, he does so much damage to Akuma's like glass cannonness, that he can turn things around really quickly. So probably still in a really sharp Akuma's hands. But Infiltration felt that it would be better to go Chun-Li against me and stick with Chun-Li even after he lost the first one. So I think that's something of a testament to the matchup as well.
Yeah, I hate the Chun-Li matchup.
Yeah.
But the reason that I brought all those guys up is because we've talked about nerfs on the show with a couple people. We talked about it with Ryan Hart. We talked about it with Kiyoma recently with his Capcom Cup run. And I was just wondering how that plays into you. When you play guys of that caliber, does it affect your play at all? Or are you one of those ones that kind of shakes it off and it doesn't affect you at all? Or what's your mindset when you go up against a guy like that, like a Bonchan or an Infiltration?
Yeah. Well, back in the day when I didn't have a lot of experience playing on stage, we'll say, on stream or up on the main stage of things, there was always nerves. That was a thing. And especially the caliber, like just playing against Alex Valle, I would kill myself so often just because it was Valle sitting there. And nowadays it's like Valle, lol, but back in the day it was a thing. I definitely have to fight against getting in my own head, but I don't think anymore like in the same way that you would think, like just getting up there and having nerves. It's more of like I will get up there and not have nerves or not have enough of a drive. I remember specifically at NCR, I made it out of pools in winners. I had beaten Snake Eyes, and I was hyped up for that, like it was a thing, and I went into the match and like got through it, and like the adrenaline was there and such. Then we had to wait like 6 hours before I played again. And by the time I got up there and sat there with GamerB and stuff, I was just like, we were just having casual conversation because I had actually gotten to play him at Final Round like a month before. We played a 1st to 5 that never got uploaded, but I beat him like 5-3 or something like that. So I was excited. I was like, that's cool. I can probably take out GamerB. But like when we actually sat down and started playing, I was just like, whatever, kind of like, ugh. And then after losing, and I was playing Bonchan, I was kind of like, whatever. And I guess I felt like, at least specifically on that day, I was just kind of out of it. I didn't really care much anymore. So that happens to me sometimes. But I'd be lying if I said that I never get nerves and things like that. I actually get nervous more against players that I feel confident about. I'll get in my own head and say, what if they beat you? Or what if you screw this up?
Okay.
But
I was right about to mention that. I guess like in the sense that, or sorry, go ahead.
I'll go for it.
That as far as like top players, and kind of work both ways in the sense that it can be intimidating to sit to someone and play like, with Bonchan or Infiltration, something like that. But at the same time, when there's like, you don't feel like anyone's expecting you to win, it can kind of take some of the pressure off.
Got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like playing like lower level players that you're expected to beat, like it kind of like exactly. What if I lose? Like that could be embarrassing or something,
The Wednesday Night Fights crew formed like a little Illuminati chat, as we call it, that I'm not supposed to talk about, but whatever, screw them. And it just had some of the better players from Wednesday Night Fights, and if anyone ever lost to someone considered a lower level, like a low enough level player, they would get so much crap from everybody in the chat for days and days and days, you know, and it would still come back up, and everybody gets upset or scores an upset, you know, every once in a while. You play enough, that kind of thing is going to happen. But yeah, there's the threat of your friends giving you a hard time, or if you're big enough, then the whole community is saying you're washed up or whatever. No. I've tried to avoid that, and I think I've done okay. Like I'm no super high level, you know, competitor that's really fallen off, and I'm not like the worst guy ever. That's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he won. But like a player like K-Brad who hasn't done as well as he has in the past, you know, he's got to deal with that kind of a thing, and that's gotta suck, you know.
Yeah, that's certainly been like. There's a lot of names that, like, one of the ones that gets thrown, like, comes right to head is like Mike Ross or something like that. And obviously they've, you know, taken time off in the competitive scene to do their own thing with the show and whatnot. But, you know, basically anyone who is super dominant and kind of not anymore kind of have to, like, deal with that in a negative way, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen to everybody eventually, but some sooner than others. And maybe not Daigo, because it seems like he's timeless and he's going to be good for forever at everything, but we'll see, you know?
Hell, I remember the same thing being said about Infiltration. Everyone still considers him super strong, but there was a brief period in time where he was considered like the next god, you know, Daigo of it, when he was just nonstop winning, and now he's just kind of like the average top level player, you know.
You know, it's funny how perceptions are like that. We talked to Tampa Bison about it, how he said that it's kind of weird how casual players, quote unquote, will have these opinions on top players. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're just not good anymore. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's funny when people say that about, like, Infiltration. Like, it's funny to me that anyone would consider him not still ridiculously good. But,
well, yeah, he set the bar very high for himself by
when he was winning everything.
And, like, without a blink, he just, like, wins Evo and winners, and it's like, cool, it's just, it's Tuesday. You know?
Yeah.
I guess it would have been a Sunday, but... But, you know, with all three of the names that we just mentioned, Mike Ross, K-Brad, and Infiltration, we say that maybe they've had some drops in their play. Another big part of that is Mike Ross played Honda in Supers. K-Brad played Cammy in everything before Ultra. And Infiltration played
Akuma,
AD Akuma. Those were ridiculous characters that kind of got nerfed a little to a lot, depending on which one you're talking about. So I think that's a little bit of a testament to how important playing a strong character can be. A strong character in a strong player's hands, like, you can see destruction like what Infiltration did in 2012, things like that.
You know, I don't know the most about Gouken, or Marcus is pretty knowledgeable. Is he stronger now than he's ever been, or were there past iterations where he was better?
Yeah, I think now he's the best he's ever been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they... aside from his general changes, I think one of the biggest changes then was the EX Tatsu buff. Like, that was huge to me.
Yeah. And it's still risky because it's going to cost you 3 meter to make safe, but at least now it hits opponents that were crouching, whereas before his go-to reversal could whiff, and it's like the most recovery in the game. It's got like more recovery than Ken's Ultra 1, I think, and things like that. But earlier iterations, he didn't even have like combos. Like, he couldn't combo any of his quick moves he couldn't convert them into anything. And now he's at least got like medium punch and things like that can transfer into some of his bigger damage combos. But back in the day, he was really just, I hope I score this jump in because that's the only way I'm going to score any damage.
Yeah, I do think Gouken at this point is stronger than people give him credit for. Not like high tier or anything, but I don't know, everyone I talk to considers him like trash tier or something. Like Chris, he's one of the guys on here, you know, doesn't matter what you do with him, he's always trash in his eyes, you know. And I do feel like he's a lot better than most people give him credit for.
I think he's definitely relevant now. I mean, maybe not in terms of like winning tournaments. How often do you see Goukens, in the top 8 brackets of things? But he's like you said, he's stronger than he's ever been. And amongst the mid tiers, he's definitely valid. And he's got some great matchups, but it's just that he's got some really bad matchups too. And a lot of those are the top tier. And so like you're going to run into a strong player that's playing a strong character, and it's really hard for him.
That's why I do think he is at the very least a great counter pick character. Like, I don't play him for most matchups. I don't think Guy really has many like severely bad matchups except for like the usual grapplers and maybe Honda, but that's about it.
Yeah, and he's great against those characters.
Exactly.
Honda, T-Hawk, Zangief, he's Hugo. He welcomes those.
Exactly.
So I mentioned you playing, some of those top guys, and along the lines of kind of that, that topic, Abe had showed me an article, and he might want to ask you about this himself. But I was reading about how you played in a team tournament where you got to play Kazunoko. Who else? I forget who else was on the team.
Was it Team Art Capo with Kazunoko, Infiltration, and Kitasachi GJ?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Abe, well, you know a lot more about it than I do. So you beat all three of them in the team tournament, right?
Yeah.
Then played Kazunoko in singles, and he beat you 2-1?
Dude, I had that match, too.
I actually remember that, yeah.
It was played off stream, which sucks, but I have a lot of amazing matches that I wish had made it onto stream, like when I played Infiltration at EVO, things like that. But, yeah, I played in Kazunoko, and there was one point where I was like, he's fishing for me to throw a fireball so he can EX shoulder through it. And I duck, I press medium punch to fake the fireball, and then I, for whatever reason, didn't commit to neutral jumping. He does the EX shoulder, and I just sit there and get hit by it. And it's one of those situations where it was so obvious. Like, I had this plan in my head, I executed the plan, and at the very end, the easy part, I didn't do it. And I ended up losing because of that. But, yeah, it went down to the very last round from what I remember. And he tweeted out something about me being a really good Gouken player or amongst the best in the world. And yeah, Eventhubs ended up running an article on that, which was really awesome of him to do and of our guys here to do.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. That nonetheless, he commented on how, I think he said you were the best in the U.S., possibly the best Gouken in the world.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't see it, but Momochi, so in final round of last year, Momochi's and my pool were next to each other. So if we both got out, we would play each other. And sure enough, that is what happened. But one of my friends, or a couple of them, said, Momochi was tweeting, and he's like, I have to play the best Gouken in the world if I get out of pools. And I was like, that's cool. And I did get to play him on stream, and we went down to the last game, but Momochi ended up beating me. Oh, well. But that was a really tough tournament. Yeah, that was a really tough tournament because I got out of pools, and then immediately I played Momochi and then Kazunoko and lost back-to-back. But almost beat both of them, and it's like, and yeah, I had a great day before playing Kazunoko, Infiltration, and Kitasetsu DJ in teams. So it was cool, but yeah, I mean, that was a year ago now. The final round's coming up again, so who cares about a year ago, right?
Well, I mean, the reason that I thought it was interesting was because I was kind of wondering from your standpoint, you weren't involved in that per se. You were in that you played, but you had nothing to do with the statement. That was just kind of something, Kazunoko had that thought, and he put it out there, and then, they ran with it. And so I was wondering, when you hear something like that about yourself, what's the mindset there? Had you considered that already, or was that the first time you kind of thought, like, maybe I am the best Gouken? Or what was your reaction when you saw that story?
Well, as far as images and talking about your own image and such,
right.
I think what other people say is so much more important than what you say or what you plant into their heads via your words.
Right.
I think the most important thing for me is I speak by playing. So if I'm playing good, then that's saying those words. If I'm not playing good, then it's saying a group of other words. But yeah, like my friends would talk about it a lot, and like people say that. I mean, I hear it all the time, like, oh, you're the best Gouken in the world, usually followed by, but there aren't any other Goukens, so and which or I'll say that myself. It's like, it's not that big of an achievement because it's not a lot of competition. But yeah, like when I think about it, there was Bullcat and like Proud Strawberry from Japan. And I don't know, they don't seem to travel at all. And so people would see their tech videos and they'd see their online matches, but like online matches are kind of their own thing, and it's really once you travel and once you start playing, in big tournaments in front of people is where I think you really get an idea, because you might be really good in your own scene. You might be really good against certain players, but it's not until you go out and you play with the whole pool that you can really assess how good you are. So if I'm just going about it, like if I'm just classifying it by results and by like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to travel somewhat. I feel like I'm the most tournament successful Gouken, for whatever that, take that as you will. But like as far as and I guess I'm sorry, as far as other ones go, like there very well could be a better one out there. It's just that they don't travel as much, they don't expose themselves. So I guess in that light, I would feel comfortable in saying that, yeah, I'm the best. But again, like someone else could easily come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, by the way, I'm 20 times better than you.
Yeah.
And so, but again, it was really awesome to hear that especially from a player like Kazunoko. I actually was hanging out with Shiro at the Capcom Cup after party, and he's like, "Oh, I know you. You're the Gouken player." It was broken English and stuff. He's like, "You are famous in Japan," or something along those lines. And I was like, "That's really cool," And like,
that is
and
really cool to hear. Yeah.
I love hearing that kind of thing, and like I appreciate it, but I also try not to like let that get too far ahead of me, or I'd rather get too far ahead of myself, because like you'll quickly be brought down to earth if you're living up in the clouds for too long. So I kind of play it day by day. I had a pretty strong year in 2014, and I had a good start of the year in 2015, but I didn't travel a whole lot, and the times I did travel, I didn't do amazing. So, I mean, you're only kind of as good as you have been doing recently, or according to the FGC. We talked about the guys that have quote-unquote fallen off a little bit, and how people see them. So right now, like, I don't think I'm even in contention to be in like the top 50 players in the U.S. But I think in 2016 that we're in now, I'm going to try my best to be there and to travel as much as I can and become all the relevant again.
Do you think sometimes like hearing that sort of stuff can be detrimental, as far as like, you hear, and I'm just taking a guess. Obviously, I've never been told this, but you're the best Gouken or something like that, and then you think, it's kind of like, well, I'm already the best. Where's there to go from here? As opposed to, even if there's no other players that are doing as well as me, there's still so much more stuff, and I don't want to settle for just being that.
I think it depends on the person, on the individual that's hearing it. I think that it's very easy to take something like that and let your head inflate and then get ahead of yourself, like we just talked about. But I try to keep things like that in check. Yeah, when Kazunoko says you're the best in the world, of course my heart goes, and I'm so, riding, I'm on cloud nine. But I try to keep those emotions in check, because they only go so far. Like, thank you, I appreciate that, but again, I'm just going to let my play do the talking, and I want to try to stay as humble as possible, both for my image in front of everyone else. No one likes like the guy that goes around and brags about stuff all the time, and also more importantly for myself, because of the things we just talked about. You don't want to let yourself you can be detrimental, but again, it comes down to the individual and how they handle it within their own head and their own heart.
I think that's interesting, because I remember I was watching, when we were going to talk to Reinhardt, I saw a video of him and Sanford was talking about, who had the better Sagat, blah, blah, blah. And then he was interviewed not too long after, and Reinhardt was like, that seems so small-minded to me. Like, I want to be the best player. I'm not concerned necessarily with being the best Sagat in the world. It's not really, you know what I mean? So I can see what you're saying as it's the person, you know what I mean? To him, it was like, that's cool. What?
I didn't hear about that. Were they like one-on-one discussing like who's better, my Sagat or yours?
Yeah, basically they played a mirror. Ryan won, and then Sanford was breaking down like in what aspects he thought his Sagat was better. But Ryan was basically like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, that's great, but I'm not concerned with being the best with my character necessarily, as much as I want to be the best player I can be. So I guess I can see what John's saying in the way it's your mindset. It's how you look at it. But you said that. You want to travel more this year, which I think is like a perfect segue into 5, because obviously, I mean, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. You're going to be traveling, playing 5.
Yeah.
How do you said Fong is a character you're interested in. How do you feel about the game overall? Me and Marcus spent a long time last night at Ultra talking about the way the game's going, and certain people seem to like it more than others. How do you feel about it so far?
Well, this will probably be my last topic, because I kind of got to jump back on and regulate the site in case there are any fires going on Eventhubs. But As far as Street Fighter V goes, I am very excited. I am more excited than I have been. I've been more focused on 4. I'm like, okay, 5 will come when 5 comes. I'm going to finish out this leg of the race before I start running the next one. And surely we still don't even have the game yet in its completed form. But having played it at PlayStation Experience and unofficially playing the crack build at some friend's house in NorCal, this is really the first time I was able to kind of get acquainted with the game, kind of get the feel of it, and start to do things more than just like, well, I mean, we watched a ton of it, but when you're at like an event, especially when it first came out at like, I wasn't at E3, but in similar events where it's there, you play for like 5 minutes, then get up because 3,000 other people are behind you. And I mean, there's really no time to really get acquainted. So I've been kind of holding off. And truth be told, like I've been messing around with Nikali, and I have a Ryu because Ryu is so straightforward. He felt like he was the easiest to transition to because he's still kind of Ryu, you know. But when Fang was announced, that was my, I think I got the most excited because I think that he looks the most fun to me. And I haven't touched him yet. I don't know. And that could be a completely wrong assessment in my own heart, but he seems like my style of character. I can already see myself doing things with him based on what I've seen and feeling particularly satisfied. You know, particularly satisfied with poisoning someone and then running away and seeing them change how they play because they're anxious that they're poisoned and now they're trying to get in, and I can manipulate that, and I think that'd be fun, you know, or you know, hitting him with his like long range normals and trying to keep him at bay. It just feels like his style is potentially really awesome for my own personal play style. But Street Fighter V is, as much as Street Fighter 4 kind of became counterpick Fighter 4, I think Street Fighter 5, everyone's going to need like at least 3 characters and 3 different characters in order to stay relevant because, well, one, the characters are easy to initially learn and pick up, and so it'll be easier to kind of get rough versions of those characters to get them started, to get them off the ground. But like, counterpicks are going to be, if Infiltration can play as many characters in 4 as he can, imagine he's going to play the cast in 5. And so the top players are going to play the cast. Like they know what they're doing. They're going to pick the strongest characters and they're going to have the counterpicks to them. And if it's going to be easier to do in Street Fighter 5, like if you don't do that, if you stick to one character, I don't see how you're going to be, how your efforts are going to be all that fruitful. So
that actually does, I guess, relate to the thing that I was going to ask, because one of our like regular reoccurring guests, whatever like that, has some pretty strong opinions about 5. They know who I'm talking about. And one of his, you know, of all the people we've talked to, we've, you know, had a good variety of opinions on this, but the game like simultaneously being harder to play and easier to play, like in the sense that combos are less technically demanding and more simple. But, you know, there's also things like, you know, you have to commit to reversals, no invisible backdashes. So it's a mixed bag of things, but how do you feel? That's actually
the story that I'm writing right now is that we essentially talk about, well, we've very often talked about how, quote unquote, you can learn a character in 20 minutes. And I mean, that's a pretty gross over exaggeration. But yeah, it's going to be easier to learn a character. And they use the phrase, it's easy to learn, but difficult to master. And usually when you're talking about that, you're talking about the easy to learn part, and then you kind of segue into something else. But like, what does it mean for it to be difficult to master? And a couple of the guys, the Japanese developers, in an interview that I'm actually fleshing out right now, and we actually posted this interview not too long ago, but I'm focusing on this specific part right now. They said things like, you know, I have it right here in front of me. The combos are doable, but you're going to have to choose an optimal combo to do. And then another reason why it might be hard to master, one of the other ones said, the DPs, like they're strong, but you're really going to have to commit to them. And if you guess wrong, you're dead. And so in that, it's like, you're going to have to play honestly. And the scrubs, when you first start playing Street Fighter and you find out that Ken has an uppercut, what do? You uppercut like crazy. Like that's where the Ken flowchart came from. That's just a given. Like that's how people tend to tend to move and tend to grow is like they find these really good moves and they just do them over and over again. Well, that really good move is still really good, but it's super discouraged. Like you can't just use it willy-nilly. And so that means you're going to have to put a lot more thought into your defense, which means it's going to be very hard to master. And then finally, now this isn't necessarily new for fighting games, but now you're going to have, your traditional gauges on the screen, your meters and such, but you also have a stun gauge that's looking you right in the face. Yeah. And when you see your opponent's stun gauge building up, there's a whole new mind game that comes into play where it's like, oh, now I really want to score that stun. And then people count stun even in games that don't have that, like in 4. Sure. But it's a whole new aspect when it's right there. And the same thing goes when you're about to get stunned and there's just that one more hit. You maybe in the middle of a match, you're feeling like you do when it's like the end of a match traditionally, because you're like, I only have one more hit. Well, I only have one more hit of stun right now. I'm really freaking out. And it's going to require that you're able to juggle all of these different meters at the same time and play in real time and still manipulate your character through this chaotic mess of things. And so there certainly are reasons why it's going to be hard to master. And if you're playing a couple of different characters, they're going to have different stun, they're going to have different damage output, they're going to move differently and things like that. So I think that's where the difficult to master kind of thing comes in.
Honestly, so would you say, because we've argued...
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because we've argued about the simplicity of the combos and how they simplify, and some of us, like me, seem to say, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Some people are very opposed to it. Do you think it's all right? Do you think that it... Are you okay with the fact that they're simplifying the execution?
I am okay. I think that no matter what fighting game you're playing, you are playing the chess match against your opponent. And, when you introduce the fact that there are differing characters, you do have different types of tools. But at the end of the day, Street Fighter is a sequence of essentially rock, paper, scissors situations, and it's you figuring out which rock, paper, scissors to choose. And when you choose the correct one, you get the satisfaction of having outsmarted your opponent. In a game like 4, there are a lot of redos and stuff like that. Like you get to play rock, paper, scissors, DP, and then find out that your DP didn't work, and then take it back by FADCing, And so you got like this augmented rock, paper, scissors where you can start throwing out like rock, paper, scissors, dynamite if you played that kind of crap when you were a little kid or whatever. And that, I think that, can take away from the fun. Maybe it adds to it. I'm not sure because I really have only played 4 competitively. But I'm very ready to, at the very least, try out 5. I'm not going to judge it until I've played it for like 6 months, and then maybe I'll form an opinion of whether it's better or worse. But for those that are like already saying, oh, this is going to suck, I think that's ignorant to do at this point. I think you need to play it. Maybe it's not for you, and maybe you already know that, but I think that it's more smart to go about it with an open mind until you've really delved into it. And like I said, I think the most important, the most gratifying thing is not, oh, I got the knockdown and now I get to do my little option select where I cover 6 of the 7 potential options and they hope to guess the 7th option. It's like I played, grab, block, strike, and I outsmarted my opponent and I got rewarded for that. And I think, that's what Capcom is really banking on with the way they've gone about Street Fighter V. And I'm pretty sure that that's the meat of it all, and then that's probably a really smart place for them to go, a really smart direction for them to take it. So I have faith.
I do feel like like you said, the level to master, I think to get really skilled with the character is still going to be about as difficult as it is in 4, just based off the fact that I never really felt like learning combos and some of the execution things was necessarily the hardest part about learning a character. I'll go pick up Ryu, and it's like, all right, I learned the jab, fierce, all the proper links and whatnot, but, actually learn how to play him still relies on the same basic, how-to zone, actual game like that. And with 5, I still feel, especially with V-triggers, that because a lot of characters' V-triggers are so unique, and V-skills and whatnot, that in order to really learn how to use them is going to take a lot of different thinking than pretty much any other character.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess in my example, I'm most interested in Ryu, so I watch Ryu players on, YouTube and whatnot or something, and like the game with his V trigger about what proper knockdown setups are for guard break, V trigger fireballs or whatnot. I think someone can't pick that up in 20 minutes and actually do well against that character against anyone who really knows their character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think it like you're saying, it goes deeper than is it easy to make the combos happen. It's more like you're playing the other person. You can sit there and do combos against the computer. That's not satisfying at all. Well, very little compared to playing in a tournament and defeating someone that's like a living, breathing, thinking entity right next to you. There's a satisfaction about that, which really holds virtually all video games, at least all competitive video games, together. So, and I think that's what they're playing off of more so than the autopilot option selects and easy or hard to do combos and things like that.
Well, I know you said that you have to go, so I want to keep you.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I have a billion other questions I want to ask you about Eventhubs itself, and maybe we can have you on again.
Yeah,
to talk about that stuff.
Because that was the main thing I wanted to ask. So if you don't have time for that now, because I did want to know, how did you wind up at Eventhubs?
Yeah, all that stuff.
But otherwise, if you don't have time for that, I guess we can do that another time.
Yeah, I'd happily come back and do this again with you guys. Is it weekly or bi-weekly?
Oh, we do it weekly. So, but I mean, for the famous guys like you usually we'll just do an extra one or just to accommodate around you guys' schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy. I had a lot of fun with you guys. And
is there any plugs that you wanted to do?
No, not off the top of my head. It's all good.
All right, then.
But thank you guys again very much for inviting me on. I had fun, and do it again either next week or whenever it is that it works out for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks again for coming on, man.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, for
we'll
sure.
Be in touch.
Have a good one.
Adios.
Thank you, man.